Hey everybody, Prepper Nurse 1 here. Today is Monday, February 25th, 2019. Hello Miss Soxy. I'm doing a video inside today because outside it's very, very cold, it's very, very windy, and it's just very unpleasant. Heather was not in school today. They canceled school because the weather was so crappy. So, let's get right into this, and I want to read this for you first, okay? So I want to make sure I quote it exactly as it was written. Okay, 1970, okay? Henry Kissinger said, "Who controls the food controls the people. Who controls the energy can control whole continents. Who controls the money can control the world." Okay? This is Henry Kissinger said this in 1970. He who controls the present controls the past. Let me just read the rest of this real quick. Hold on. I just want to make sure I'm saying this completely right. So this, 1974, Henry Kissinger suggested using food as a weapon to include targeted population reduction in a previously classified 200-page report. All right. So he who controls the past controls, he who controls the present controls the past. He who controls the past controls the future. That's George Orwell that said that one. All right. But let's get to this. The point of this video and what we're talking about. He who controls the food can control the population. All right. Really, really important. Go ahead, honey. Heather going by. It's really, really profound if you think about it. Okay. Again, like I said, control the energy. You can control continents. You control, the money. You can control the world. So, what are we on? Most of the world is on the Fiat Dollar. Okay. So there's something to think about right there alone. That could be another whole topic, but we are in control of the Fiat Dollar. The United States is, okay. So when these other countries decide, Libya, Iraq, okay, that they don't want to be on the Fiat Dollar anymore. Venezuela didn't want to be on the Fiat Dollar anymore. What happened? Well, we make sure we control the narrative. We made sure that Gaddafi was overthrown in Libya, and Gaddafi did a lot for his people. Was he a dictator? Sure he was, but he had done a lot for his people in his country. Okay, Iraq. A lot of people forget that in Iraq, we supported Iraq in the Iraq-Iran war. We supplied them with a whole bunch of stuff when they were fighting Iran back in that war. So people forget about that. They don't pay attention to history, okay? So when he decided to go his own way and do his own thing, well, we couldn't allow that to happen. Boom, we go in there, he's dead, okay? He was hung. So, there's a lot that people don't pay attention to, but he who controls the food controls the people. Really, really important to remember. Let's go back in history just a little bit. We're going to go back to the 1940s during World War II. And you guys can look this up if you don't believe me. Victory gardens, okay? People were encouraged to have gardens to help feed the neighborhood and stuff like that because we were at war. The men were all off fighting overseas. So we had all these victory gardens, and people were growing their own food and very sustainable and helping to support each other, support their neighbors, and working together, okay? So how is that now? Let's think about how that is now. Just think of all the regulations that cities, that towns have as far as what you can grow in your own property. And here's the best part, guys. This is what I think really blows me away. It's your property. Your property. You've paid for it. You're paying your mortgage for this property. It's yours, okay? But they're going to tell you what you can and cannot do on your property. So you can't have that garden in the front yard. You can't, if you're growing certain places, they don't even want you growing fruit trees and stuff like that. So it's a control. A lot of these towns are regulating what you can do and what you cannot do. You would think that they would encourage people to be more self-sufficient and not so reliant on the system. But that's not the case. Why? Control. It's all about control. So we have an opportunity to change that narrative. We really, truly do. You don't necessarily have to move out to the country to do it, but, put that greenhouse in your backyard. Obviously you're going to have to get permission. That always used to blow me away when I lived in suburbia. That, like, I had thought about it one time, putting like some wind turbines up on top of my house, and there was no way. They were not going to allow that at all. There was ordinances for all that already in the books. You could not do that, okay? When I bought my property that I had in suburbia in Greece, New York, first thing I did when I bought the property, I planted a cherry tree, an apple tree, a peach, a pear, so I put all those trees in to begin with, and then we put in raspberry bushes. And over the course of the time we were there, 8 years, raspberries went crazy. And we would get so many raspberries every year. It was awesome. And they kept, we actually had to restrict where they were growing because new shoots were coming up all the time. But we let a big area take over for it was all raspberries. And the neighbor kids loved them. We would say, yeah, help yourself, because it was growing through the fence, and they would eat them on their side and stuff like that. So we always said, sure, go ahead and do what you got to do. Well, when I sold that property, or I sold it when I let it go, I let that property go. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I say it right. When I let that property go, and then we came down here, we've gone back by a couple times. And the guys that came in and fixed the place up before they sold it, they took out every one of the raspberry bushes. All the raspberry bushes were gone, like they were never there. And that kind of saddened me. It really did, because it was just like, it's a free form of food. It's just very, very sad. Very sad. But, and of course, my cherry tree that I had planted down there is huge now. It's just freaking awesome. Again, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So, anyway, these towns and the cities are controlling what you can and what you cannot do. If the old Italians, especially in Rochester area, okay, always had a garden. Like, they generally did it in their backyard, so, it was allowed and stuff like that. But they always had gardens. They had the fruit trees and everything like that, and they always did that, okay? And I probably should have been Italian, because like I said, when I got my property and I did the same thing, and even like here, when we got here, I plant 5 new fruit trees every year. So I'm always I'm looking long term, down the road, and as the trees grow and they produce, and then we're going to have a lot of fruit and stuff like that, which would be really, really cool. There's nothing like going out to your own trees and pulling off those pears, or pulling off that apple, or pulling off the cherries off that tree, or even peaches. There's nothing like that. There really, really isn't. It's a really cool thing. And so, but again, learning how to garden, learning how to do that now, and I've talked about this before. After SHTF happens, guys, it's too late to learn how to garden at that point. Either you know it or you don't, okay? And if you don't know how to basically take care of yourself in that aspect, you're going to be in big, big trouble. Big trouble, So having seeds is great, okay, and doing that, but knowing how to germinate those seeds, knowing how to, get them going and get them in the ground, and having them grow and having them produce. There's a lot more to it than just planting it and waiting for it to grow. That's not how it works, okay? So that's something that, people really need to take into consideration. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to control. They are controlling you. They are telling you what you can and cannot do. And so, like, when people say to me, well, you moved out in the middle of the woods, and so I did it for freedom. For me, it's about freedom. It's about trying to be as independent as I possibly can be. If I plant fruit trees, nobody cares. Nobody's going to say to me, you can't do that. If I have a big garden in my front yard, which I have, my garden is in my front yard, technically. Nobody comes in and says I can't have that garden in my front yard, because they don't care. It's a different mindset once you get farther away from the small towns, even the larger towns in the cities. It's a whole different mindset. So that is a great thing. And so, I highly encourage anybody, get out there, learn it now, because I'll tell you, now is the time you really need to know what you're doing, guys. Because you can make a mistake now, and it's not going to cost you your life. You make a mistake after SHTF and your garden doesn't come in as had hoped that it would, and that's going to help sustain you through the winter, you could starve to death. So that's really, really, really important. I mean, I know 2 years ago, this is a great example. I decided, okay, I'm going to plant 18 tomato plants. I mean, my garden was predominantly tomato plants that year, because I said I'm going to plant all these tomatoes, and I'm going to can up all these tomatoes, and I'm going to have a ton of tomatoes, and it's going to be great. Now, the plants grew great. They absolutely grew great. But a blight came, and I lost most of my tomatoes. I think that year, out of 18 plants, I think I picked 6 edible tomatoes. I think it might have been that. It might have been less. So think about that. So you putting all your eggs in one basket, and if it doesn't come through, you are screwed. Now, obviously, last year I diversified. I only put in 6 tomato plants, which they produced very, very well. We had a great crop of tomato plants last year. But I put in a lot of other things as well. Put in potatoes for the first time, up here. And so, trying to do different things and see how those things go. And so you learn. You learn when it's not an emergency. If you figure things out, what works, what doesn't work, with the soil that you have, or do you have to bring in different soil? Do you have to buy bags of soil, to do that? Put in the nutrients or whatever and stuff like that. I do everything all natural, so I don't use any kind of chemicals on my plants at all. Everything is all natural. Bug repellent, we put in marigolds every year, and for whatever reason, and I learned this from my grandparents, the bugs don't like marigolds, so they would put a marigold plant in the front of the row, and then the other end of the row of every, they had huge gardens. My grandparents had an acre garden when I was growing up, so they would get out there and they would put those in there, and they never really had a bug issue. And so ever since I've been growing my own stuff, since I was old enough to do it, even on a small scale when I lived in the city, I always had a small garden in the backyard, when we owned a property. When we were in Greece, we had a garden every year. So, and it was just, I like the homegrown stuff. And, being able to do that and have it produce is awesome, But like even buying the plant, putting the plant in, and you need to take care of it. You need to nurture it and make sure that it's okay, and follow up with that stuff. I mean, I know they have like Miracle Grow that you can use that too. I've never had to use that, but that is going to even help your production even more. So the big thing is, guys, the powers that be that really truly control everything, they want total control. So they don't want you to garden. They don't want you to be self-sufficient if you can be. They don't want you to have those skills to be able to take care of yourself. They want you completely and 100% dependent on the system. Again, the quote says, "He who controls the food controls the people." Okay? He who controls the power controls the continent. Think about that. So right now, United States, we have 3 different sections of the grid. Okay? They control the continent. If they cut that power, what are you going to do? Okay? I mean, it's that scary. It's to think about, okay? So, there are more and more people going green all the time, which I think is absolutely awesome. Again, it's a freedom. It's an independence. You're not connected to that system. I know a lot of towns and stuff like that now are putting in ordinance that you have to be grid tied, and you're not allowed to have backup batteries. I'm going to tell you what. If you are grid tied, that's fine. Make sure you have backup batteries. Make sure you have it so that if you have to, if that grid goes down, then you can flip a switch, and now your power that you're bringing in from your solar panels or your wind turbine or whatever are going into your own battery bank so you can still function. Do not let them, the powers that be, have that complete control. Try to fight back. I mean, that's what it's all about. It really, really, truly is. So anyway, a couple things I wanted to mention while I was thinking about it. On my website right now, preppernurse1.com, we are doing a sale, 10% off everything. Hey! Enough. I'm trying to make a video. Yes, I see you both. Almost there is a discount code. Hey! No! So, sorry. So if you're interested and you want to get some legacy food, it's a freeze-dried food. The sale is going to go until the 3rd of March. You can get 10% off of everything, okay? So the other thing I wanted to tell you too, which is growing exponentially, which is completely free, is the Prepper Nurse One community. We just set up a single section of the Prepper Nurse One community, so any single preppers out there, men or women, that are looking to try to find somebody, we set that up. We have a senior preppers, which is by far and away our biggest category to date. You know, we have a disabled preppers part of that. All 50 states plus Puerto Rico, several countries, Canada, the UK, Australia, Germany, Sweden, Spain just got added. Somebody asked me to add Spain. So, you know, we have all these different Hey! Enough! So...
It's your fault for having the video on for half an hour.
Well, what am I at?
It's been a while.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I get chatty.
It's at 12 for now.
Okay, all right. We're gonna wrap this up, guys. But anyway, the Prepper Nurse One community. If you're interested, it's free to be part of that. You go in and you register, and you can connect with like-minded people. Okay, so that's kind of cool too. I'm going to end the video now because Heather said I've been talking way too long. So remember, we are all in this together. That's really, really important. You know, I want to hear you guys' feedback on this topic of this video. I think it's really important. It's something that we need to look at and address, and we need to look at that past and see what the goal is and what the aim is. Remember, guys, hug and kiss the ones you love. Tell them every single day. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. We never know what's going to happen. Remember to I'm going to say the same thing again. Remember STD. It's one step at a time, one thing at a time, and one day at a time. Whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to accomplish, you can do it. The only one that's going to stop you from getting there is yourself, okay? And that's it. Nobody else can stop you. Terrible day for power here at the homestead. It's been
my God!
Stop.
Care.
Stop. No comments from the peanut gallery.
Oh, comments are being made.
Yeah, no kidding. So anyway, we brought in no power today. It's been snowing all day, very overcast, crappy weather, so no power in from the solar today at the homestead either. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Prepper Nurse One out for now. Punch you in the nose.
Click the button?
Punch you in the nose.
Okay.